seconds. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Peter Ambrose. Here. John Jones. Mary McCullough. Keith Varian.
Here.
Phil Gerber.
Here.
Tim Lynch.
Present.
Eric Newman.
Here.
Cynthia Kerman.
Here.
Heather Dean.
Present.
Alex Durrell. Robin Orris.
Here.
Ron Pine.
Here.
Jen Hochberg.
Here.
Aaron Lopez.
Here.
Philip Pierce.
Here.
Liz Ezema.
Here.
Josh Garskoff. Bruce May.
Here.
Carol Way.
Here.
Jay Wolf.
Here.
Matt Ambrose.
Here.
Hannah Gale.
Here.
Pam Jones.
Here.
Ray Newberger.
Here.
Tom McCarthy. Mark McDermott.
Here.
Tom McCarthy's here.
Here.
Wake up, McCarthy.
In the front row, if you can.
Joe Vergara.
Here.
Karen Wackerman.
Here.
Hank Ferentz.
Here.
Pam Iacono.
Here.
Christy Messina. Peter Tallman. Ryan Farnan. Drew Georgiadis. Ken Lee.
Here.
Bill Perugini.
Here.
Sam Cargill. Paul Fattabine. Mike Hurley.
Yes.
Eric Sundman.
We all please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first item of business is to consider and act upon the minutes of the regular meeting held on March 27th, 2017, and the minutes of the budget hearings held on April 3rd, 4th, and 5th of 2017. Motion to approve by Representative McCarthy, seconded by Representative Way. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Thank you. Item number 3, to hear a report from the first selectman or its designee on the Public Works Yard aggregate pile. We heard this report in committee. Is there any further follow-up? Seeing none. Item number 4, to consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Whereas, federal monies are available under the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program administered by the State of Connecticut Department of Housing pursuant to Public Law 93-383 as amended, and whereas pursuant to Chapter 127C and Part 6 of Chapter 130 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Commissioner of Housing is authorized to disperse such federal monies to local municipalities, and whereas it is desirable and in the public interest that the town of Fairfield accept and expend from the state a grant in a sum not to exceed an additional $47,500 for a total of $607,000 in order to undertake a community development block grant disaster recovery tranche 1 project, Pine Creek Culvert Upgrade, and to execute an assistance agreement therefore should one be offered. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Fairfield is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites for the state assistance imposed by Part 6 of Chapter 130 of the Connecticut General Statutes, and that the acceptance by the town of Fairfield of a disaster recovery community development block grant to be used for the Pine Creek Culvert upgrade in an amount not to exceed an additional $4,500 for a total of $607,500, $607,500 is hereby approved, and further resolved that the first selectman is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to accept and expend said grant, and further resolved that the first selectman is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to execute any and all necessary documents to secure said grant. Moved by Representative McDermott, seconded by Representative Wackerman. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, any members of the public? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Item number 5, to consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that it is in the best interest of the town of Fairfield to enter into contracts with the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, and that it is desirable and in the public interest that the town of Fairfield accept from the state a reimbursable grant in the sum of $30,000 for the Rooster River Flood Control Project study, and further resolve that the first selectman is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to accept and expend said grant, and further resolve that the first selectman is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to execute any and all necessary documents to secure said grant in connection with said contract and to execute any amendments, rescissions, and revisions thereto. Moved by Representative Hochberg, seconded by Representative Wackerman. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none. Any members of the public wish to comment? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Item number 6. To consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Whereas it is in the best interest of the town of Fairfield Water Pollution Control Authority to purchase and install a new generator at the wastewater treatment plant, and whereas the cost of purchasing and installing is $463,000, or $347,250, 75% reimbursement is provided through a federal pre-disaster mitigation grant through a FEMA grant administered by the State of Connecticut's Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, and the remaining balance of $115,750 is to be funded by the Water Pollution Control Authority. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Michael C. Tetro, First Selectman of the Town of Fairfield, is duly authorized to enter into and sign contracts on behalf of the Town of Fairfield Water Pollution Control Authority with the State of Connecticut's Department Emergency Management and Homeland Security for the purpose of obtaining a federal FEMA grant and to accept and expend said grant, and further resolved that the First Selectman is authorized to provide such additional information and execute such other documents as may be required by the state or federal government in connection with contracts and to execute any amendments, rescissions, and revisions thereto secure said grant. Moved by Representative Orris, seconded by Representative McDermott. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none. Any members for the public wish to address this? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry. Item number 7, to consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Whereas it is in the best interest of the Town of Fairfield Water Pollution Control Authority to replace a portion of the East Trunk Sewer Line, the project, in the Town of Fairfield, and whereas the estimated cost of the project is $2,500,000, and whereas the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development is willing to provide a grant of $750,000 to fund a portion of the cost of the project, the grant, provided that the remainder of such costs are provided for by the WPCA, and whereas the WPCA, subject to the receipt of the grant, appropriated and agreed to spend its own funds in the amount of $1,750,000 to pay the costs of the project not funded by the grant. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the First Selectman of the Town of Fairfield is hereby authorized to accept said grant and expend in the name and behalf of the WPCA up to $2,500,000 to fund the project, $750,000 of project costs to be reimbursed by the grant. Moved by Representative Hurley, seconded by Representative Vergara. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none. Back to the body. Anyone, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Item number 8. To consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Whereas it is desirable and the public interest that the Town of Fairfield Water Pollution Control Authority, WPCA, replace the Mill River Pump Station generator, the project, and whereas the estimated cost of the project is $160,370, and whereas a reimbursable FEMA federal pre-disaster mitigation grant administered by the State of Connecticut's Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, the grant, in a sum not to exceed $120,277.50 is available to fund up to 75% of said project costs. And whereas on April 26, 2017, the WPCA voted unanimously, subject to the receipt of said grant, to appropriate and spend its own funds up to $40,092.50 to fund 25% of said project costs. And whereas on April 26, 2017, the WPCA voted unanimously to request that to the extent that the grant requires approval by the town of Fairfield, that the town approve said grant. Now, therefore be it resolved that the town of Fairfield, on behalf of the WPCA, accepts said grant. Holy smokes. And further resolved that the extent of the grant requires approval by the town of Fairfield and the town approves said grant. And further resolved that the town of Fairfield, subject to receipt of said grant, is hereby authorized to expend in the name and on behalf of the WPCA up to $160,370 to fund the project, 75% of said costs to be reimbursed by state said grant. And further resolved that the first selectman of the town of Fairfield is duly authorized to enter into and sign contracts on behalf of the WPCA with the State of Connecticut Department Emergency Management and Homeland Security for the purpose of obtaining said grant. And further resolved that the first selectman is hereby authorized to provide such additional information and execute such documents as may be required by the state or federal government in connection with said contracts, and to execute any amendments, rescissions, and revisions there to secure said grant. Moved by Representative Hurley, seconded by Representative Zezima. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to address this? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Okay. Anybody need me to read that again? Item number 9. To hear and consider for the first time the following amendments to Chapter 78-2 of the Noise Ordinance of the Code of Town of Fairfield, sponsored by Ray Newberger, District 6, Brian Farnan, District 9, William Perugini, District 9, and Samuel Cargill, District 10. 78-2 definitions, nighttime hours, the hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., cross out Sunday, add in Monday through cross out Thursday, add in Friday, and 11 p.m. to 8 a.m., and Sunday during any state or national holiday. The weekend schedule will be in effect from the previous evening through the end of the holiday. We discussed this item in committee. Is there anything that anyone wishes to discuss this evening on the floor? Representative Vergara. It's completely up to you. I mean, you can just give it, we won't vote on anything tonight, but you can read your amendment that you're planning on proposing next month if you'd like. And then if you could submit it to the clerk, that way we can make sure everybody has it in their packet. Okay, so I understand there's an amendment. Were the two of you working on this together, or this is just Representative Vergara? Okay, thank you. Please use the mic.
Brian Farnan, District 9.
Jill Vergara, District 7.
Karen Wackerman, District 7.
So I would like to, we have a friendly amendment. Would you like to propose to the RTM?
Yes, thank you, Brian. Thank you for taking the initiative with this. I just made a couple of amendments. It would read for 78-2 definitions, nighttime hours. It's what Brian handed out to you. The hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Sunday evening through cross out Thursday, Friday morning, in parentheses, weekday schedule. And the hours between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. Friday evening through Sunday morning, in parentheses, weekend schedule. During any state or national holiday, the weekend schedule will be in effect from the cross out previous evening before the holiday through the morning of the holiday. Cross out end of the holiday. In addition, for 78-3, excessive noise prohibited, we're taking out all of the definitional language at the end, so it will read, "It shall be unlawful for any person to emit or cause to be emitted any noise from such person's property beyond the boundaries of his property lines in excess of the noise levels set forth in Section 78-5 during, cross out the nighttime hours as defined in Section 78-2, except in those incidences provided for in Section 78-8 and 78-9. Cross out all of the following. Nighttime hours shall mean the hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., Sunday through Thursday, and 11 p.m. to 8 a.m., Friday and Saturday."
That's enough airtime for you. I'm back in here. Just kidding. So, I mean, the reason why, and Jill and Kathleen from the First Selectman's Office, they were very helpful. And what we're trying really to do here with kind of this second round of edits is make it clear that Sunday would be the morning where you would be able to have the later noise ordinance, but at the same time, we did not want to impact Friday, which was the real reason for these new amendments, is that Friday would remain under the previous weekend schedule. So hopefully that works, and if you have any questions, please let us know. There's been a lot of eyes on this, so I think it should be in good shape now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this item will come before us next month. We'll make sure that we get a copy of the new proposed changes into the packet, and then we'll have discussion and up for a vote in June. Any further discussion on this ordinance? Seeing none. Item number 10 and item number 11 were both heard in LNA, and they have both been withdrawn by the department for the time being. Item number 12, to consider and act upon any other matters presented at said meeting which may be properly acted upon under the rules of the representative town meeting. Representative McCarthy.
Madam Moderator, through you, to the First Selectman. We're all aware that the question of tax, the amount of tax resulting from the transfer of property from GE to Sacred Heart was initially in dispute. I hope the First Selectman could just summarize for us how that dispute has been resolved.
Mr. Tetra?
I will do my best. If there's any further questions or if it's not clear from what I said, we do have the Chief Fiscal Officer, Bob Mayer, and Human Resources Director, Emma Hibson, here to follow up. However, it's simply this. The tax designation for a property has to do with the reval date when it was evaluated. So the reval date of October 1st, 2015 is what controls the taxes due in this current fiscal year of fiscal 17. In October 1st of 2015, GE owned the site. So in the tax bill that went out on July 1st of 2016, but part of the fiscal 17 year, is what the bill is due and what's being paid now. So when the property transferred, that tax bill was still owed. So the taxes due through June 30th of this year are owed. Sacred Heart acknowledges that. That's not an issue. The property transfer took place on December 15th of 2016, but that's governed by the October 1st, 2016. So even though the property transfer took place then, and we all agree Sacred Heart's a not-for-profit, so that's not the question. The question is that that property does not get a not-for-profit tax status until it's used by the organization for their mission or for their purpose. So if Sacred Heart just bought it and decided to operate as a commercial office park, it would still be taxable. Obviously, they're not doing that. However, until they used it for an educational purpose, taxes were due. We sat down with Sacred Heart and said, when did you start using it for educational purposes? They said January 15th, 2017. So we agreed they owe taxes from October 1st of 2016 for 2.5 months until January 2015. That also is approximately the amount that we have in the budget. It's actually slightly more than that, so there's no financial impact in either case. So it took about 5 minutes to sort that out with them. But we're all in agreement on that. That's why this lawsuit was never filed in court. Is that helpful, and does that answer the question?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other business that needs to come before the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Representative Perham and Representative Lee, we stand adjourned. Thank you. We covered all of our public comment on all of our voting items. We stand adjourned. Thank you.